Welcome to the Modern CPA Success Show, where we're 100% focused on helping accounting firms achieve success. If you're an accounting firm owner who wants to learn how to provide virtual CFO services, then this podcast is for you.
All right, welcome to today's podcast. I'm really excited about today's guest. It is Pete Potsos, and so he is from Bill.com, and Bill.com is a company that we've been working with, it feels like forever. I'm guessing it's one of the really first vendors we got connected to, so this is a podcast that's been a long time coming and excited to really dig into it. But before we dig into Bill.com, Pete, welcome to the show, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about your background and kind of how you got to Bill.com.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you very much for having me. I've been watching some of the past episodes and you guys have been doing a great job. So it's an honor to be here and to talk about this. And so a little bit about myself. I'm a CPA, I say recovering CPA. Started out in Detroit at Coopers and Lybrand office, and I did some internal audit. Then I got into sales, and then I did a .com Borders, and then I did my own .com. And then when everything kind of burst and, .com was a 4-letter word, I went into the technology accounting space. I landed a company called Thomson Reuters. It was Creative Solutions back then. So since 2001, I've been working with accounting firms, and I've learned a ton from some of the, biggest firms, that have been really necessarily just in that time. It was more like not big, but firms like you that just knew what they were doing. Right. So it was great to kind of learn from those that got it and then share that with smaller firms that were just getting going. And then someone told me, hey, you know so much, you should get into your own firm. I did that for a moment and then got pulled back into the accounting space. And I started working with CPA.com. And CPA.com, this is around 2011, was helping firms get into cloud-based accounting services and using best-of-breed technology. So we were sort of a reseller, if you will, of Intact, Sage Intact now, and Bill.com. And we were trying to help people get into the space. In early days, Adam, we've had this conversation before. It wasn't so much about selling the technology. It was more about making people feel comfortable about being in the cloud. And we were more like cloud psychologists back then. And,
yeah, us too.
Yeah, right. And so then, Bill.com was sort of like the killer app. It was like when I think back to my accounting classes, we learned Excel, and some tools that you needed to be an accountant. And this, I think, is a tool that is kind of essential. It's like the entry gateway into cloud accounting services. And then over the years, it's just been working with firms that have grown, that have been acquired, that have acquired other firms. I came to work directly for Bill.com almost 4 years ago. And now I work with some of the larger partners here at Bill.com.
What he's saying is he no longer works with us. He's reserved for the big dogs. So no, it's okay. We get it. It's okay.
We've been there.
Everybody deserves an upgrade.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was, we have known each other for a long time. You've been a great resource for us. And yeah, I remember the days of, we thought we were pretty high tech whenever we started getting the special ink where we could print our own check. So we would get this big blank stock of checks and we'd print our own checks. That way we were never running out. We were like, oh, this is great. You go into this locked filing cabinet and there'd be all this stock of client checks. What a disaster and potential disaster. Anyway, you got a bunch of checks and then you'd have the electronic signature of your client just stamped on the things. And yeah, it was really cool whenever banks allowed you to start ACHing stuff, but then it became super inefficient because we were like, we got to put it over here. And I remember arguing, we had this argument internally. People were like, this is so much double work. We don't want to do this electronic way because we're just, and then when Bill.com came out, that argument went away. We were like, look, you only have to do it one place it all takes care of it from there. That was revolutionary for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was the beauty of it, because it really starts with the transactions and capturing those transactions. And why not get it before that even happens, right? If you can get that bill into the workflow and digitized, then that's half the battle that most firms are dealing with. You know, you're chasing them down for stuff. Now you're getting it before it's even paid. And now you can be a part of the process and making that part of the workflow to make sure it's done properly. And then if they're, you know, super busy and you know, they need some help, you can create controls where they didn't exist before. And, you know, because they teach this in accounting, you know, segregation of duties, you got to have 3 different people doing everything, but that's not the case in most small businesses. And, you know, where you find, you know, businesses that get in trouble, lose money, it's when this one person in the office has been doing everything, and then they go on vacation, you find out, oh, you know, there's $300,000 missing. But
yeah, I'll tell you one thing that I thought was huge for us too, and this was like uber obnoxious. We used to have these like tubs for all of our clients, all their records, right? And we were paperless.
mm-hmm.
And so paperless used to be kind of a joke, because all it meant was you had more paper because you just shredded a ton of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then you were constantly printing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just like just paper over paper, which was kind of obnoxious. But it was one of those things too, where I remember right before that, where we were scanning everything, it was always hell trying to find the documents. So either people would take stuff out of folders and you'd never find it, or whenever we started to go paperless, people would scan it, but then you didn't understand their hierarchy, or, you know, you'd tell them all like, do it alpha, do it by vendor, do it by whatever. And then it would get mixed and matched. And whenever Bill.com came along and we were actually indexing our own documents, then even for clients that we weren't doing bill pay for, we were like, look, like, this is the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
You need to do this, because now you've got an electronic filing cabinet where you've already done the work to index every single one of your things, and you can look at it in all these different ways, which was amazing.
Yeah, you're taking me way back, because I've had numerous conversations about the filing structure, how to name everything. And now it's just a logical thing that you just sorts with the vendor, attaches itself to the bills, you know, so you can find it in multiple ways via the tagging. And paper clearly is a boat anchor. You know, I think now we've found out, you know, with the pandemic the past year, that you know, it's been the biggest hurdle for a lot of people, in that, you know, they'll get calls from their clients saying, thank God you put me on to this, because if we hadn't listened to you, like, they just shut down our whole office building. We can't go into the office building, or the mail, the postal system with, you know, obviously the pandemic, but now with all these deliveries coming, and then just during the election, the slowdown during that time, mail is just not getting payments, like live checks are not getting opened and deposited, or people don't want to go into the office and touch the mail. So, you know, getting rid of the paper is you know, the first thing you got to do, and throughout the whole thing. And then it's one of the things that we're trying to do as well, is like, okay, it's in the workflow, but let's get rid of the actual paper check. And that's one of our biggest things that we're working on doing.
And I can tell you, yeah,
sorry, Jimmy.
That's okay. Yeah, I was going to tell you. So I worked prior to coming to Summit. I worked for a couple, you know, Fortune 5,000 companies, $1 billion of revenue. And I can tell you, like, when I made this shift, it was amazing to me, like, how Bill.com really has small businesses keeping up with those large companies. You know, some of the tools that they were using were pretty cool, but super expensive, and still had a lot of people in there involved in the process. And I would look at it, and then when I came to Summit, it was like, oh wow, this Bill.com pretty much provides almost everything that these large companies are using for 10 times the cost, and it does it for a small business that, whatever the size, you know. So I think that's the big advantage, and I think that's something I really noticed for my first day at Summit.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's an enabler, you know, it just takes you to a different level. And now, I mean, you talk about the you know, intelligent back office. That's some of the terminology. Our our CEO recently started using it's the back pocket in, the office is now in your back pocket, and now it's on mobile, and you can do anything from anywhere. Pandemic aside, I mean, this video hopefully will be around beyond this, but yeah, now you can do anything anywhere. And with everyone's kind of mindset changing, I think you'll see more and more of that, where we'll be doing business from your back pocket anywhere.
Yeah, some of the features that we like I like the security aspect of it, because like you said, getting the paper out of the mix. I used to brag about how they get a copy of the bill with it too, because whenever we do that, we'd forget to send remittances. So they would get that in a paper check. But I like now that whenever I go to set up all my vendors, they're all invited to put their bank information in, but I don't have to deal with their bank information. You know what I mean? Like they're doing that and managing. So there's a security component. I'm now transferring that stuff back and forth. Clients love it because they're getting it. The vendors love it because they're getting their money faster. They get all the notifications, and then we get to save money because you're saving money, not having to print it and touch stuff. And so that part of it was slick. And then another big feature that helped us out tremendously, the world's getting smaller, and allowing for international ACHs, not having to deal with just that part of the bank website. The money management part of bank websites is like uber obnoxious. Like, I mean, some better than others, but you're walking around with kiosks for a kiosk, and then you need a code in 6 seconds. And it's like, it is just obnoxious. And you got to learn all these new platforms because you can't really mandate a bank to a client because they're in different regions of the country. So, but by having Bill.com from an efficiency standpoint, we're all working off of the same platform. And I know Jamie's a process guy, so I know that's near and dear to his heart too. Yeah,
it's definitely.
Yeah. So control, in security is like top of mind for people. And, we were talking earlier about the largest, we're like in 80 of the top 100 firms. I will assure you that these firms are constantly making sure that we have the security protocol. I mean, I had a firm send me a 300-line spreadsheet to fill out with all these questions about the security. And I kind of laughed. I'm like, wait a minute, you guys did our SOC audit. You know more about the security. Why are we doing this? And, but, that's really, really essential to people. And then, like you were saying about the vendor invitations and having them fill in the information, we are doing things now where we're even going to make that even easier for you. We're calling it funded invites. So like it'll go to the vendor, they'll get their notice that say, hey, there's something coming to you. If you want, you can get this electronically. You just have to enter your bank information. And then if they do it right away, that money will convert into an e-payment, and they'll get it faster rather than waiting for the check. And so that's something that we're doing. The other thing is our intelligent virtual assistant, or IVA, is where when the document comes into the inbox, it's looking at it, and it's looking at, doing some pre-fill of the information, which you've probably seen. But it's also looking to see, it's an international payment because the IBAN number is on here. So do you want to use this information? And then we're sending and enabling international vendors to do that themselves, because they know better how to get paid than you know how to get paid. So why not let them do that? So lots going on there.
The AI. Yeah, the AI component's going to be huge. Just being able to read it, and even if it's not perfect, the idea is we turn our people into reviewers instead of data enters. So it's already doing the data entry for us, and then we can catch the errors. And we don't need a second layer of people to catch errors, which is pretty cool.
Yes.
I feel like this is an area where technology just continues to grow. Like every time I talk to someone like you, or I listen to a podcast on it, it's like, oh, wow, I didn't know that's the direction they're going. And it feels like it's constantly moving forward, which is really a fun industry to be in, I'm sure.
Yeah, I was just on a call earlier today, and we were talking about some new stuff that's coming. And I said to him, I said, well, that's great. So now the moment you release that, they're going to want it, even better and bigger. And, but yeah, it's constantly moving forward. And you hear all the time, so-and-so's thinking about adding payments, or this other company added payments. And, people will ask me at a show, it's like, well, what do you think about that? And I'm like, okay, first of all, whenever they announce something, it normally takes them 3 years just to even get it started. And then once they do, I mean, we're already 14 years ahead. And really, it's not about, just, hey, you can do it. There's so much around it that where I spend a lot of time is getting people to feel comfortable about it, when they start making payments electronically for the first time and they make a mistake, who's going to talk to them and talk them off the ledge. So you hear about companies being efficient. Like, the last thing you want is to be working with someone who's efficient. You want someone that's got a person on the other end. And I think about if you're from the Midwest, after the the Bell breakup, Ameritech was the company, and they had a tagline. It says, "In a world of technology, people make the difference." And having the people behind it. I mean, we're up to almost 400 employees now, supporting all of our partners and developing, and our the folks that our engineers, the risk operations people. There's so customer success. There's a lot of people behind this organization. And so it's just not like, oh, well, we're doing this now. Yeah, well, you better have a whole bunch of people behind it to make sure that no one's trying to misdirect that money and do stuff.
Night and day from where you came from, for sure. I mean, it's definitely grown. I know you went public and everything. So who would be kind of a competitor? Not that we're overly promoting them, because obviously you're our that's definitely the tool of choice for us. But I mean, what are the other options out there for people, and why would they want to go with, Bill.com versus some other solution?
Yeah. So even going back to 2011, one of the biggest competitor is paper. Like, I mean, the fact, that people are doing it still using paper, that's ultimately the biggest, challenge is and where I spend most of my time is change management, getting people to think differently and do things differently. There's still people that want to print the checks and literally someone signs them, and I don't know, they must like the smell of the paper.
Yes.
Whatever. And so that's probably number one. And then, there are the early days, it was the banks, and having their bill pay there. And, in that world, actually, that, in many cases now, that's a Bill.com, is powered by Bill.com or whatever. So you might even look at that and say, well, they want to use this or that. And so in that area, I'm like, fine, if they're going to do that, if the person at the client's going to do that, they're going to use a banking tool, think about, unless there's ways to add extra users and give them specific permissions, do you really want an employee having access to your bank account after they just, asked you for a raise and you said no? Probably not.
Good call.
Yeah. But even in that case where there are extra users and such, there are some of the limitations in that is the API, right? And you might have a tool that you want to feed in on the front end, let's say like a HubDoc, or maybe you're using, something else like Earth Class Mail or whatever, we have all these APIs that have been pre-built and partnerships that feed into the Bill.com solution. In the other cases, it's kind of locked down and, for security reasons on their part. So they won't let you, interface those tools. And the other thing is you really want to have control of who, and visibility into which of your staff are on there. And when they depart and go to another place or retire or whatever, you don't want them to still have access to various accounts. And when you're in various different tools, if you've got your staff in there, and you don't have a visibility into that, that's a potential exposure for you, especially if they didn't voluntarily go. They might have a grudge, and you might want to, make sure who, right, is accessing those accounts. So having a console and being able to see where everyone is important. And then an audit trail. There are other solutions out there, that are inside the Intuit platform now. We were there at one point, but and there's some solutions out there that are free, that are kind of throwing on an extra little, like, oh, we're doing bill pay now. And, it's fine. I mean, if it were just about moving money, it's not. We really have three things that we do, and it's the inbox and being able to capture the information and having a single place for all that information. The workflow, having the different appropriate people and the approvals, the controls, the security, the permissioning, the approval types, the policies, all of that. And then it's the payment, and then the different security around that. But it's not, when someone says, hey, we're doing this for free now, there's nothing ever for free, right? And I used to sell not payroll. Well, I did, but tax software. And there was a company that had all you can eat. You pay one price, you get every tax, form possible. Well, okay. They might do electronic refunds really, really good, and that's like their bread and butter. But like when you needed an Oklahoma 1041, return, and you want to make sure it's right because this is like $1 million client of yours, you need that thing to be right. And when people are just bundling stuff in or throwing it in, there's no real attention to that. So that's some of the challenges there where you're using it as a loss leader just to grow business elsewhere. We
find that to be true in almost all software. We talk about it all the time. It's better to be best in breed.
Yep.
Everybody's looking for that one software that'll do everything from A to Z. And exactly what you said. They're really good at one aspect of it. It's where they spend all their R&D time, everything. And they're like, oh yeah, and I need an accounting platform. So they just start adding stuff on,
right,
without really, comparing themselves to, of course they're not going to be an Intuit, because like QuickBooks has been mastering that for years, just like you all focus on Bill.com, which is kind of, just a quick pivot. We also use Bill.com for invoicing for some clients as well.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about how that, like how that evolved or how that works?
Yeah. So there's, in a business network, there's always two sides to a transaction. You've got the accounts payable, and then you got on the other end, the receivables, right? So just the natural connections that are happening. We were talking about my Bill.com swag. I'm always wearing a Bill.com, logo. And, I remember, I think when I first started, we were golfing at like a sales kickoff, and some guy hit it onto our side of the fairway, and he saw the Bill.com stuff, and like, oh, I get paid with Bill.com. In the airports, lounges, I see people, even back here where I live in Michigan, there are people starting to, on the shuttle to the airport. So when you pay and you do it electronically, that person on the other end gets a free Bill.com receivables account, so they can, take their payments in. And if they decide that they want to pay bills, then they can, upgrade their account and start paying bills as well too. But even for like someone that is using Bill.com and they now want to do accounts receivable as well, you can do that a million ways. Different companies offer that. But what works really nice with us is that we have the ability to set up recurring invoices, especially if you've got a fixed fee arrangement. It's just set it, forget it. And then it'll invoice them. It'll go the method that they want. We mail statements out too. So there's some people that just like to get that annual dues. Like, I haven't gotten my statement from my homeowners association here yet. So like, now I got to go log in and figure that out. But like, had it come in paper, I probably would have paid it already.
Right. Yeah, totally.
but we just switched companies. So I do believe in not, a no paper, but sometimes it's a good reminder. And then, so we do that, but then we can do an automatic pull of the funds. So, we call it auto pay. So the money just comes in and you don't have to trigger anything. You did a setting that say, I want to get paid within 3 days of the due date, and it just happens. So that's where that's at, and just a easy way to do that stuff.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing that I've seen from our clients with Bill.com is, I've been through a lot of onboardings here, and a lot of times, we recommend different softwares, and I think Bill.com is the one that I've never really heard pushback on, either whether it was in the initial stages or like, okay, we're taking over your AP, we're moving to Bill.com, and you guys don't have a choice. Like that's the way we're going to do it if we're taking over your AP, or whether a client isn't even using us for that service, and we kind of do a process documentation. We're like, what you guys are doing is completely inefficient. Here's how you should be doing it using Bill.com. And so I think you guys definitely have that edge in the processes you've set up, and the way things work is it's really user friendly, and we've been able to walk our clients through that pretty easily. So just real quick here, I want to throw our email address out there so that our listeners can reach out to us, and also reach out to you, Pete, if they need to. You want to throw your email address out after this, but real quick, our email address is cpa@summitcpa.net. Again, cpa@summitcpa.net. So a couple minutes left here, Pete, kind of give you final thoughts, and also how do people reach out to you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you very much. It's been great to be here and be part of the guest lineup that you've been pulling together. I'm really honored and appreciate that. I've known Jody and Adam for a long time. Glad to meet you as well, Jamie. And I would say that right now you have an opportunity to digitally transform your clients' life. We've all been impacted. I don't think anything's really going to change. They're going to want to see things and tools that make them work more, efficiently and effectively. And, having something like Bill.com is kind of one of the first things you can do to make their life better. And it's not just about providing financial information. You want, at the end of the day, they just want to, pay as few taxes as possible. They want to spend more time with their kids, and they want more money in the bank. And, and if you can make that, reduce the friction and get rid of paper, that's like one of the first things you can do to make their lives better and help them realize one of those three things above. And as far as getting hold of me, I think the easiest thing is I'm on Twitter. It's Pete Potsos, Potsos CPA is my Twitter handle. Or I'm on LinkedIn as well too, and you can connect with me there, and then you'll get right into my email here at Bill.com. But I'd love to hear from people on Twitter, and we'll be tweeting about this this conversation too. So we'll look for you there.
Great. Well, yeah, I definitely appreciate your time. And Adam, any final thoughts? Like I said, I know Bill.com was well established before I even started at Summit. I think that was 5 years ago now. So any other thoughts on Bill.com and what our listeners should know?
Yeah, it's just a no-brainer. I mean, if you're looking for best in breed, it's the one and only out there for this kind of a service. It brings a lot of legitimacy to your organization and what you do, security, all that kind of stuff bundled in one. So again, if you're looking for best of breed and to make your life easy and your client's life easier, there's really no other choice. Bill.com is what we've used for years and will continue to use. So
we appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Pete and Adam. This is a great podcast. Look forward to listening to when it's out there. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Enjoy this episode? Visit our website at summitcpa.net to get more tips and strategies for achieving modern CPA firm success. We're here to be a resource